All right. Hey, Quant's just going to do a real quick rundown on BTC this morning before I get back to doing some coding. And I mentioned this before in one of the previous videos. If you are part of the Quant AI program, I do have some updates that I'm working on, and I'm going to get back to doing that stuff just shortly. Just want to do a follow-up since I didn't get to go over some of the things that I wanted to go over yesterday. So first things first, let's get into the hourly strategy, where we look at that weekly strategy that I put together as a template. Very simple strategy that is not something I would trade out of the gate, but something interesting to look at nonetheless. That one did close positive yesterday with a 1.33% return. So again, this is overall generally flat, so not something I would trade, but interesting to look at as a potential starting point for a strategy. So let's get back on to the other things that I wanted to talk about, which is the general market direction. So things after we received that bull moon, it looks like things have continued to trend up. We are getting some downside movement now, which is not something that I am too surprised about. I haven't really done any volume analysis, but looking at the volume analysis, you can see volumes decreasing over this period of time, and volume decreasing while price is increasing is generally a bad sign for long-term price. So we'll see how that continues to play out. But getting on to what I really wanted to cover yesterday that I didn't have time to go over was the parabolic curve. And so I did have a parabolic curve on the chart here, and the parabolic curve that I had on the chart previously, let me go ahead and open up hide one of these so it's a little bit more clear. So this was the original one that I had on here, and looking at this parabolic curve, it looks like we've already validated that. So never fear, I have fixed that, and that means that the bull market is safe, right? Of course. So that is one of the reasons that you can't necessarily go off of just a parabolic curve, because while you can draw it any number of ways, you never know which way is actually going to be correct unless you're looking in hindsight. But if I hide the previous one, this one does line up better with the bottoms, and so this one does look a little bit more valid than the other one that I had on the chart before. So I think I probably will run with this one, but I'm just noting here that I'm not trading this specifically. I'm just putting it on here as a point of interest to see how it tracks. As I mentioned before, you can just continually redraw these forever to make them correct. So this is not something that I would be using to trade off of. One other thing I wanted to mention while I was looking at this is, while I tend to look at the daily time frame, this is fairly clear here. I do like to go up to the larger time frames when I'm using some things, like when I'm using something like a parabolic trend and it's going to go over a longer period of time. It's just a little bit easier to look at. If I'm looking at the master strategy here from the weekly time frame, I just wanted to call out that we are getting the potential first tick of negative price action on the weekly time frame with utilizing the master strategy. And so we're not there yet, because this will not really be locked in until we have a closing price. And so this would be the 821 crossing, or the 8 EMA crossing below the 21 EMA. If that closes like that today, that's going to be the first marker of bearish, of essentially a bearish market on the weekly time frame. So if you are of the opinion that we're still in a macro uptrend, which following the 200s we would be in a macro uptrend on the weekly, if you're utilizing the weekly time frame, then this would potentially be an opportunity to look for buy signals. If we look at historically how that's panned out since we turned bullish here, so we have the 821. Both of these 200s here didn't flip until later, so this is kind of, both being positive is kind of when we get into the macro, uptrend. And so we can see that at that point in time, each one of these signals, when the 821 crossed below, or the 8 crossed below the 21, that is when we would be looking for buy opportunities. So this would have been a good buy opportunity sometime around here. If we were looking around the next one, a buy opportunity around here, and both of these, well, all of these, consequently, are also happening with touches of these parabolic trends. So it's possible that our price just continues to move sideways for a couple more weeks, and then we get a reaction off of that. Or if we end up getting an early Christmas rally, maybe price will continue to go up, and we already potentially missed that buy opportunity if you're playing the weekly time frame. So just wanted to throw that out there. This chart, I did mention I'm going to be updating this chart so that it will be coupled with the master strategy and just update automatically. This is still the values that I would see on the daily time frame, not the values that I would see here on the weekly time frame that I called out. These would essentially be flipped in that case. So that is it for today. I'm going to get back to doing some code and hopefully providing some value. Everyone have a good day. Peace out, quants.